Welcome back. It's been said that one man's trash is another man's treasure. And that may be true if the two men are separated by 100 years or so. And that's the way for Ron Langille of St. John. His hobby is digging up bits of the past that someone just threw away. Roy Yelsta reports.
Ron Langille and three of his sons are digging for buried treasure, stuff that was buried as trash maybe a century ago.
St. John's one of the oldest cities in Canada. There's got to be all kinds of stuff here.
The Langilles are looking for antique bottles. Ron has been digging them up for more than 30 years.
Used to go hunting with a fella. We hunted together for years, and all of a sudden, instead of a gun, he was taking a shovel. And I used to tell him he was crazy, of course. And one day the hunting was pretty poor, so he said, "Give me a hand." And we were down at Havey Hill in Musquash area, and I gave him a hand for digging for bottles, and I dug up a I don't know whether it was 1906 or something, Dolan's, and it just went from there, I guess.
Where it went was to bottle collections worth thousands of dollars. Other collectors are willing to pay a lot of money for some of the rare items he dug up.
Well, it's William Givens. It's from Moncton. They went in business in approximately 1877 up to about 1903. They're very scarce. There's not too many of them known. I happened to dig them up when I was in Moncton working up there. And they're a fairly expensive bottle to buy.
How much?
Oh, I would say between $600–700 a piece. I think I was the first one to find them, to my knowledge. Getting the line at all over here?
Nope. No line.
You hitting anything over there, Jake?
Not even in the line yet.
No. There's a good indication. Glass stopper.
How deep is that?
Where'd you get it at, Andrew?
Top of the bone.
Right to the top of that ashes?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I like the history of the stuff I dig up. And you never know what you're going to dig up. This is a torpedo bottle. It's a pop bottle, the first type of pop bottle made. That was designed by Mr. Hamilton in 1814 for this J. Swepson Company, ginger ale company, which is still in business today, of course. So they used that for a bit, and then they decided it was kind of awkward, so they went into this bottle here, which is called a round bottom. They made them in that shape so they wouldn't stand up. If they stood them up, the corks would pop out, and you'd lose the contents of the bottom. So they made them, so you had to lay them down to keep the corks moist so they wouldn't pop. This here is a Simeon Jones St. John marble bottle. You can see the marble inside it rolling around. Now, when they filled it up with pop, the gases in the pop pushed the marble up in here, and it was used as a stopper. Now, to drink, to get the pop out of it, you had to turn it upside down, break the seal, the gases, the marble rolled back, hooked into these two little things here, and you drank your pop. They didn't last too long because the bottles were too expensive to manufacture. And the kids used to break them to get the marbles out. So that's why they didn't last too long.
Ron Langille has also dug up medicine bottles molded with the names of long-gone St. John drugstores, even some of their patent medicines for things like dandruff. He's also collected complete lines of St. John ginger beer bottles, dated year by year, from companies on streets that no longer exist.
Well, it's very hard to get a complete set. Takes a long time to get a complete set of bottles. When you're talking, what, 1891? It's over 100 years old, so there's not too many of them to be found.
Sometimes a dig reveals something like this, a delicate hand-blown bottle untouched for a century and a half.
It just rolled out of the ground, and beside it was probably a heavy stone, broke all to pieces. And you'd wonder how it ever survived in the ground. It's so light and thin. It's a long time to be all in one piece and clear. A lot of brick, nothing would survive in that brick anyway.
But sometimes there's little to show for an hour of digging.
Just a old medicine bottle with nothing on it. There's no name on it or anything. Of course, you might go foot over and run into a whole mess of stuff. You never know.
That's why Andrew Langille, his brothers, and his father will keep on digging.
Heart just practically stops when I find something nice. It's real fun.
Roy Yelsta, CBC News, St. John.
Has built up an archive of ginger beer bottles. There's a rich history in the collection, and Brodersen says each bottle has its own story.
The Dolan brothers, they made a pint and they made a quart.
There's a message in every bottle, and Thor Brodersen takes pride in recounting every tale.
This bottle was dug by St. John Digger. And this bottle is very rare to start off with, but to get an upside-down label on top of it makes a bottle worth, well, priceless.
Ginger beer was popular before ginger ale. It was the soft drink of a generation ago, and you could buy it at your local corner store. Dolan, Daly, Ferris, and Hooley, just some of the names that operated on streets that no longer exist.
This T.A. Hooley's a Fairville bottle. A lot of people, younger people, don't know where Fairville, New Brunswick is. This bottle came in the area where Moosehead Brewery is. Where Moosehead Brewery, that used to be the Ready Company. And you see, if you date back bottles, you can date back a lot of your history about St. John. You see, for example, did you know one time in St. John there were over 40 wine merchants in St. John alone, each having his own jug and his own name on the merchandise. Here's a bottle here.
Brodersen has over 200 bottles in his collection, and one of them has my name on it.
Well, this bottle here is a D.J. Britt, which is your great-grandfather, Jeff. And D.J. Britt, I don't know where he's located, but the label plainly says St. John N.B. I like bottles that have an identification, that you know where they're from.
There's no question about it, D.J. Britt is from St. John. Born in 1874, he was a well-known athlete in this city. With a little research, I discovered Dan Britt operated a store near Haymarket Square at the turn of the century. This is a photograph of one of his later stores with two of his sons outside the storefront window.
That's the king of the bottles, the Britt bottle. There's only 3 known in all of Canada.
3 that we know of. Word is there's at least a 4th in St. John, and there's one in the hands of an Ontario collector. Still, they're rare, and no wonder bottles have a fragile lifespan.
If you were a kid, what would you do with a bottle like that? If you lived along the railroad track, you'd put it on the railroad track and fire rocks at it. If you lived on a farm, you'd put it on the farm post and fire rocks at it. Or 22. That's what happened to these bottles.
Digging up backyard dumps in the country or along the shores of Marsh Creek, you find tons and tons of broken clay. But once in a while, you'll find that gem in the rough. Brodersen's proud of his collection. He has a keen sense of its importance. And he started a new collection.
Collecting coffee mugs. And don't underestimate it, because someday that'll be a piece of Canadian history.